All right, so I wanted to make a quick video on something that I talk to all of my students about, but I feel like is a widely misunderstood concept in the world of guitar and guitar players, which has to do with our pick. Now, first things first, quick history on picks. Guess what? They've been around for thousands of years. The most common and most popular pick up until about the 1800s was actually feather quills, using that end to strum the strings. In addition to that, players, especially classical and nylon players, would use their fingers and their nails in order to play. Then around the late 1800s, we start to see people using picks more, and as many of us already know, tortoiseshell is incredibly popular as a pick material. Then improvements come and go. We start to try to figure out ways to make the grip better. People are gluing cork to the sides of their picks so that you can grip them better, or rubber. Some people are drilling holes down the center, and then celluloid picks come into play in the early 1900s. And there was actually one main manufacturer who figured out how to make celluloid picks and then supplied them to Fender, Gibson, and Martin all the way through like the 50s. So it's interesting because from the moment that we start using flat picks, everyone's trying to figure out what works best. And then, as many of us know, in the 1970s, we see a ban on harvesting sea turtles for their shells for guitar picks out of a conservation effort. And that's where celluloid really takes its place as the guitar pick material of choice for the most part. Now, obviously nowadays there are picks made of wood, glass, stone, different types of plastic, not just celluloid. Some are nylon. My favorite pick that I use on electric guitars is a nylon pick. And all of this makes a very significant difference, which you can actually see in this video here. It's an older video of mine where I actually tested a bunch of different guitar picks to see which ones sounded the best to your ear. I played them one after the other with acoustic, electric, and check it out if you are interested in that sort of crazy thing. But regardless of whether or not you play with a celluloid or a nylon pick or whatever other materials there are out there, and whether or not you use a pick that's one of these big fat guys or maybe just our standard little triangle pick, right? There's one concept that I feel like a lot of people don't understand. And that is that in my experience, most people think that the pick is supposed to be an extension of your index finger. And actually that's not how we want to think about it. Instead, we want to harken back to those classical times and think about the fact that when we pluck with just our fingers, we use our thumb like so. And it's really important to notice that when we use that thumb and that thumbnail, right, we are not directly against it like this. Instead, we're kind of at an angle here. And this is significant because the pick is not an extension of your index finger. It is instead an extension of your thumb. Now, before we get into this, I want to make something perfectly clear. Just because this is something that is technical and makes the most sense technically does not mean that it's the end-all be-all when it comes to holding your pick and playing with your pick. In fact, I could give you so many examples of people who are better players than me and make way more money than me who hold their pick completely differently. Eddie Van Halen used index and middle. James Hetfield holds his pick with 3 fingers. Pat Metheny, crazy jazz guitarist, also does 3 fingers, but also turns his and takes the softer corner instead of the sharper corner. So everyone's got a different way of doing things. So this is not to say that this is the end-all be-all way to do it, but I think there are important concepts that we can apply to all of our various ways of holding our guitar picks. So, continuing on with this idea that this is an extension of your thumb and kind of replacing that thumbnail, we want to hold it either perpendicular to our thumb or slightly angled off of our thumb like so. Then, whether we're using the 2 fingers like so or we're curving our finger underneath the pick like this, the biggest goal that we want to have is we want to make sure that our pick, when it's up against our thumb, can't wiggle this way. And that's why People like to use 2 fingers, or in my case, and the probably more common way of doing it, is to curve that finger underneath so that you have that whole surface area covered and it can't move as much. Now, some of you may say, if it's supposed to be mimicking that thumbnail, does that mean that when you upstroke that it's supposed to be mimicking like your index finger to get this sort of a picking technique? And that works. However, the biggest thing when we're holding picks is that we don't necessarily want all of our effort when it comes to picking to come from our fingers doing this. It's not really the most economic way of using the pick. Instead, we end up using our wrist more so. And that's why, again, it comes back to that thumb, because if we were trying to strum or do, multiple downs and ups with our thumb, we would move our wrist to catch that motion. And so again, we add that pick to our thumb so we can see it nice and comfortable coming off the side, and then so, regardless of how you hold your pick or which fingers you hold your pick with, I think it's important to understand the key points and concepts that we get from this technical approach, which is having the pick come off the side of your thumb, whether that looks like that or if it looks like that. Reason being that if it starts to come off like this, then we have to angle our hand and our wrist more, and we actually limit our mobility. So we want to come off the side of our thumb. The next principle is to make sure that our surface area on the bottom of the pick is covered so that our pick can't always flip-flop like so. I think that these 2 principles are really crucial when it comes to pick stability and pick technique, regardless of how you achieve them. They also allow us to more comfortably use more advanced techniques, whether that be circle picking, slant picking, economy picking, etc., etc. Those 2 main principles will give us our best chance at being the most consistent picker that we can across the board. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you liked this, don't forget to check out that video where I go through all the different pick types. It's really fun to see them one after the other. Another thing to do would be, if you like this concept and you want to learn more about how your right arm and hand should look, you can go ahead and check out this video. It's an early video that I did where I go through everything about strumming and single note plucking and all that sort of fun stuff. And as usual, I'd love to hear from you guys. Are you a 2-finger pick holder? Are you a 3-finger pick holder? Do you like the edge? Do you like thick picks, thin picks? Do you like a specific material? Do you disagree with me completely? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you're new here. Those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being a part of the channel. Please remember to go make someone else's day better. My name is Mac Wright, and we will see you around.